Hey, maybe I'll change the oil today. Huh. Guess not? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Because Miata. If you've been following the channel, you've probably heard me say over and over again that I honestly believe that if you own and operate your own vehicle, then you need to know how to do the maintenance on that vehicle. I used to get ripped off all the time before I knew anything about cars. When I was a teenager, I would take it into the dealer and they would rip me off left and right. So I decided I wanted to just teach myself about how to work on cars, how cars work in the first place, how to take care of the maintenance on it. I've always been leery of taking it to places like Jiffy Lube or, I'm sure they're a fine company, but places like that, those quick oil change places, because I'm always skeptical that they're never going to change the filter or whatever to save a couple bucks, So just do it yourself and you'll have peace of mind that you're getting the best quality filter and oil put in your car. If you watched my last video, you saw that I did have an oil leak right at the back of the valve cover here. And what that was a leaky CAS O-ring, the cam angle sensor on the back of the engine here. It's got a rubber O-ring that is prone to leaks, and every so often you need to change those out. Mine was completely dried up and it had cracked in half, and that's why mine was leaking. So since I have changed that, I have not done an oil change to the car. And since I was going to have to add oil anyway, since it leaked a lot, might as well just drain it and put fresh oil in. So let's talk about motor oil. Pretty much any type of motor oil is fine for your car's engine. You are fine mixing and matching whether it's full synthetic or just regular standard oil. It doesn't do anything as far as harm to the engine. I've been putting full synthetic in mine ever since I got it, because when my dad gave me the car, he told me that it's only had full synthetic its entire life. So I'm just basically keeping on with tradition. You can use regular oil. You just can go shorter distances between oil changes. That's really the main key to regular oil versus synthetic oil. You can go a little bit further with the full synthetic. As far as the weight of the oil, I'm using 10W30. The W, contrast to popular belief, does not stand for weight, it stands for winter. So the 10W means that the viscosity during cold weather, during winter time, the 10 is the level for that. And you can go in your owner's manual and take a look to see where it says what they recommend as far as the weight of oil for your car, and it ranges between climates to what part of the world you live in. So the lower the number before the W, the better it is in colder weather. The 30 is the viscosity of how it deals with the higher temperatures at the boiling point. So I believe it says 100 degrees Celsius is what that number is. So the higher the number there, the thinner the oil is. 10W30 is what I've been running for the life of the car, so I'm just going to keep using that. First thing you're going to do is you're going to jack up the car. stands to hold the car up. And as a fail-safe, I use the jack stands and I keep the floor jack right underneath it, just in case something happens. You can always give it the earthquake test of just trying to shake the car. This feels pretty solid. For extra safe measure, I always use the wheel chocks. And what my technique is, put one on the front and on the back. I only do this on one tire. I don't put, I know a lot of people put them behind the car on both sides, on both tires, but that just doesn't make sense to me. If you put the wheel chocks behind the car, what if the car rolls forward? I like to use an old box to put down under the car just to lay on while I'm wrenching on it, just to keep from getting all dirty. Catch the oil. So I'm under the car. You're going to come back here to the oil pan. Okay. This thing is your oil pan, and this is the bolt that we need to remove to drain the oil. I'm going to use a 19 millimeter to crack this thing loose. Breaker bar. Remember lefty loosey. There we go. The rest you can just unscrew with your fingers. Oil drain pan below it. While the oil is draining down below, we're going to move up top to take a look at where the filter is. So here's my beautiful engine. Got my Track Dog racing shield over my radiator. Got the blue valve cover. Move over to the side here. This is going to be really hard to see, but let's see. The oil filter is on the side of the engine block. Point to it is right here. So this is the most difficult part of the entire job, is to squeeze your fat arms down through the side of the engine to where the block is to unscrew the oil filter. It is on finger tight pretty much, so you don't have to worry about getting a wrench down there and cranking it off. Just, you know, use your hand to unscrew it and it should just come right out. Filter. There's the old filter. See the oil still down in there. So what I'm going to do is get the new filter out, put a little fresh oil down in the filter itself, just so the oil pump doesn't have to work as hard when you first start it up. Always try to put something on the side here to protect the paint when you're doing this, because oil drips everywhere when you're removing that filter. So Just be aware of that. Oil is still dripping out of the oil pan. You can use pretty much any oil filter that you want. I'm using Mobil 1. This actually was on sale with the jug of oil, so that's why I'm using this one. I've used Bosch in the past and Fram. I haven't had any problems with any of these. Mobil 1 though is a pretty good quality brand, so size for the NA Miata is the M1-108. And this is the new filter. And basically what you want to do is pour a little bit of oil down in the hole there, and then rub a little bit of oil also around the rubber seal around the outside here. And what this does is it keeps the filter from sticking to the side of your engine block, because trust me, if it gets stuck and you have to get a wrench on this, it's just going to be a bigger pain. One thing you can do to get oil around that new seal is just put it on top of the old one and just kind of twist it on. Now we got oil in our seal. I just poured some fresh oil down there, and it's actually absorbed into the side of the filter in there. I poured quite a bit. It filled up almost to the very top, and then it just absorbed in there, and that's kind of what you want it to do. And use some of the excess to rub more around that outer seal. So now all we have to do is just kind of squeeze it back down in there and put it in. Sometimes it's easier to put it down through the front of the engine and just kind of hand it to your other hand over where it screws in. So with one of my fingers here, my index finger, I'm holding it with my hand, but I'm sticking out my index finger to feel for the threads that stick out of the side of the engine block. And now that it's on, I'm tightening it, turning it to the right, righty-tighty. It's on there pretty good, but my hand is slipping from the oil on the outside. Let me get a rag to turn it one more time. Just using a paper towel just for traction, just to get a better grip on it. Alright. Yeah, you don't want it super tight. You don't want it to, you know, get seized on there. You just want it basically tight enough to not lose oil pressure. Okay, so the oil is still dripping a little bit out of there. I think I'm gonna wipe it down and then put the bolt back in. Pay close attention to the bolt, because it should have a crush washer like this on there. You want to make sure you've got that on there. A lot of times it actually sticks to the side of the oil pan, so if you don't see one on your bolt, look at the side of the oil pan there, see if there's one stuck to the side, and you just pry it off with like a flathead screwdriver. You basically want to just wait until all the oil drips out of there. Once it stops dripping, then you can put the bolt back in. There's still quite a bit dripping out, so I'm going to just let it drip for a little bit longer. Start off threading this with your fingers. Last thing you want to do is cross thread this oil pan. So see how easy it turns just with the fingers. Make sure your crush washer's on there. right. Okay, so now that it's finger tight, I'm gonna take my socket. Again, this is a 19 millimeter. And I'm just putting it just tight enough where it's snug. I'm not cranking down on it. I'm not putting, 100 foot-pounds. I'm just making sure that it's snug and that it's not going to back out. And I can pull on the opposite direction with my fingers and it doesn't turn. Basically, you're just wanting to make sure it doesn't leak or lose oil pressure. That's the main goal here. Last thing I'm gonna do is probably just spray this down with some engine degreaser or brake cleaner or something, whatever I can find in there. Just get some of this oily residue off the bottom. Done with everything underneath the car, so now I can just lower the car, take away the jack stands, and add new oil. Add the oil. We've already screwed in the oil filter to the side of the block. The drain is plugged back in and screwed in underneath on the oil pan. So it's all buttoned up. All we have left to do is just add oil. And fellas, no matter how good of a shot you think you are, always use a funnel, because the last thing you want is oil to spill all over your engine cover. I'm actually going to start off with a Mobil 1 high mileage 10W30. I've got 1 quart here. The engine holds 4 quarts total. So I'm going to start off with my first quart of the high mileage, and then I'm going to move to the regular 10W30 for the remaining 3 quarts. Hold the bottle on its side like this, it just pours a whole lot easier. A lot of the Miatas out there, especially the NA Miatas, are high mileage. So they recommend this for over 75,000 miles. I have a little bit over 100,000 on mine. So basically all this does is help soften up some of the seals in there to where it helps it last a little bit longer. It's not any different weight or anything like that. It's still 10W30, but it's got, additives in there that just help with, like I said, softening up seals and things like that to help prevent leaks. The rest I'm going to pour in is just the regular full synthetic 10W30. So what we're looking at here is the oil gauge. We just want to make sure we get oil pressure, and that will spike up to the middle of the gauge if we do. So let me turn the engine. Bingo. So I usually like to let the engine warm up just a little bit before I check the levels again, just to let the oil go through the system and through the oil pump. It fills up the oil filter also with fresh oil, and once we check that, if everything looks good as far as the levels go, then this job is done. While the engine warms up, what you want to do is just start looking for any oil leaks, just in case you didn't tighten something down all the way. Don't see anything dripping, it's always a good sign. If there's a leak, trust me, you will see drippage coming from the bottom of the chassis. Just check the levels, and they're all the way up to the top of the fill line, so we are all done. So if you've been following along as a tutorial and you just finished the last steps, congratulations. You've just completed your very first oil change.